Hey there, everyone. This week's topic is back handsprings because I realized that's something that a lot of people want to achieve. And it's something that while you can't maybe do the whole skill at home if you're not getting a spot, there are lots of drills that you can do at home to help master this skill. So I'm going to get right into stretches and kind of talk as we stretch. But I wanted to focus too on shoulder stretches today because that's a problem for a lot of people's back handsprings is a lack of shoulder flexibility, especially in boys. They don't have the flexibility this way to reach back. So I'll show some stretches that will help with that. And even if you have pretty good shoulder flexibility, it's just nice to train that position for the skill. And we'll also do some drills and some conditioning to help kind of break down the skill and strengthen in areas that you'll need to be able to do a good back handspring. One arm behind your head, make sure you're pulling that elbow across behind you. So this is a skill that is a mental issue for a lot of gymnasts, and we've all been there. It's scary to go backwards sometimes, and you don't trust yourself. And so I think really the best thing you can do on this skill is strengthen and break it down, go back to the basics so that you do feel confident going into the skill. So you don't have to doubt yourself. You know that you've taken the right steps to actually get there and be able to do a safe back handspring. Okay, we'll do our first bonus shoulder stretch that I don't always do in my normal stretches. You're going to start with your fingertips pointed away from you, and then you just slide your bottom as far away from your hands as you can. And you don't want them to be really wide. The closer together you can get your pinkies, the better. If they can touch, awesome. I know some people who can go all the way flat doing this. I am not one of them. I think the years of coaching they have wrecked my shoulders. All right, so this one you scoot in a little bit closer to the hands and bend your elbows and lean into that stretch. This is one that looks really weird. I look like a strange crab right now, but it's okay. It's productive. Okay. I'm going to stretch out. I should have done the arm swings after that. I always feel that a lot in my shoulders. Okay. We will get into quick other normal stretches just to make sure that we're warmed up. Go ahead and switch. And reach to the middle. If anyone has any back handspring questions that are specific to their problem, I'd be happy to talk about those with you guys. I know that everyone's a little bit different, but I hope to try to cover kind of the main issues that I see in back handsprings and help kind of fix those. All right, let's switch. And reach for your ankles. Okay, and butterfly. And let's hike. Or actually, we'll do the other butterfly. Scoot your feet out, nose to your toes. And hike. Scoot away from the dark door. Flex and pull. And we'll go ahead and roll one ankle. I'm going through these a little bit fast because I've done them in all of these videos, so I feel like you probably know them by now, but it's still good to make sure that we're getting warmed up and getting stretched before we hurt ourselves. So turn one foot, look at the bottom of it. You could also do the one where you grab opposite hand to opposite foot and kind of let it push here. And then pull your leg up to your chest. Get that hip stretch. It's kind of nice on the wall right here. It's like the one nice thing about gymnastics at home. The only one. And switch, roll the other ankle. I feel like wrists and ankles are probably two of the most important things to stretch for back handsprings. I know my wrists were not really happy about the back handspring I did earlier before I stretched. Turn your foot, look at the bottom of it. And pull your leg up to your chest. Okay, and make sure to get a good wrist stretch in. Pinkies together for this one, pull back. And now thumbs together. And fingertips out, rock side to side, slow on this one. Make sure you're leaning on each hand. Okay, we'll roll them out. I feel like they're crunching more than usual, that's fun. Okay, usually I'll do splits here. I can just save that other shoulder stretch for last maybe. So we'll go ahead and lunge for splits. So what happens when I add in different stretches that I'm used to, I get all mixed up in a weird order. All right, straighten out this front leg, nose to your knee. Make sure this knee is flat and you feel the burn in the back of your knee. And slide. Thank goodness I haven't lost my splits over the break. I hope that you guys are doing just as well. It's hard when you're not stretching as often as you're used to. Okay. Switch. Always make sure this knee is on top of the ankle, not hanging over your toes. And straighten, lean into it. Again, make sure if you're sitting on your bottom like this, you need to scoot this back leg back. All right, slide it. My bad leg split's weirdly kind of okay today. Okay, and sumo. Really poor balance today. Good thing it's not beam. Already falling over just standing on the ground. Okay, slide it. Check your toes on this one. Make sure you have toes in the air. Okay, so for our bridges today, I thought we would just do like maybe one really good rainbow bridge because I want to emphasize in this bridge the shoulders pushing out and the position with the upper body because that's similar to what we need in the back handspring, that open shoulder position. I tell my gymnasts this a lot. Closed shoulders would be here where we have this angle, and open shoulders are here, arms by your ears. So I see a lot of gymnasts and they're tumbling close like this, and this causes you to crumple and fall on your head in the middle of your tumbling, which obviously we don't want. So we want to train that position. If you don't have this flexibility, then this is step one for you. It's making sure that you have this shoulder mobility so that when you do your back handspring, you're not going to get hurt, and it's going to just make your life a lot easier trying to learn this skill. So this rainbow bridge, we start with feet and knees together, feet tucked in close to your bottom, hands by your ears, and the goal is to keep those feet glued to the mat as you bridge up. You straighten out those legs. Make sure you're pushing those shoulders out past your wrists. If you bridge up from feet where they started and that's too easy for you to straighten your legs, then you can step in your feet a little bit closer to your hands and then try to re-straighten the legs, and that'll get you a little bit deeper stretch too, which I did not need on that one. That was plenty for me. So the other shoulder stretch that I think is really good for these, especially if you have poor shoulder flexibility, is this wall stretch. You can put hands on the wall, and then you can kind of walk your feet out, and we're just pressing the shoulders open like this. So you can see it's really the same stretch. This is just a different way of doing it. This is kind of just focusing on the shoulders, whereas that rainbow bridge is obviously stretching your back, and it's maybe a little bit more challenging overall. So I think both of them are effective for the shoulder stretch, and you can do whatever works best for you. So if you have poor flexibility here, then do this wall stretch or do some more bridges every day, and you'll see progress, I promise. But if you don't, you won't. So just work on them. And those are kind of stretches that I have for shoulders mostly. That's really the only place we need flexibility specifically for the back handspring. We don't really need a ton of bendiness in the back for these. And actually, that kind of has inspired me. Maybe at the end we'll do some core strengthening conditioning, because I see gymnasts who are naturally flexible have problems on their back handspring sometimes because they're so bendy. Their back handspring takes up like this much room because they can bend that far and get their hands in that close. But instead, we want long, low, pretty back handsprings, not ones that go up and then straight back down. So if you're very bendy, then doing things to strengthen your back and your core will help you gain control so that you're not flopping all over the place and being like pure rubber band. So the first drill that we're going to do is kind of starting at the beginning of the skill, and that's just the jump. So I like this jump back because I see a lot of back handsprings that go straight up in the air to start. And like I said, we want it to push back and be long. So that's all about angles on the takeoff. I talk about this trust fall angle for these because you should really be jumping and pushing back into the skill. If your takeoff can be here comfortably, staying in one place, then it's probably leaning too far forward. Really, to do this jump back drill, it's like a trust fall. And there's also a version of this that would be great if you have a bed that you can jump back onto, then that would be the perfect place to practice these. But I did not want to relocate today to show that. I think you'll kind of get the point. But we're practicing sitting the hips back behind the feet as we take off so that we can push back. And you can do this standing, where you just kind of run backwards out of it, or you could do it back onto a mattress or something like a bed that is elevated. I wouldn't recommend a couch, probably with the armrests. Don't hurt yourself. Bed would be better. So you can do it standing here. You can see you end up kind of running backwards out of it. That's where you could just fall on your back on the bed instead. But like I said, I don't have that right now. So we'll do maybe 5 of these jump backs. And you don't have to go like super duper far, but we're just trying to think about that push away from the feet instead of taking off and landing in the same spot. Okay. Another thing to focus on for these is a fast arm swing. This is about that open shoulder position again, because if your arms are swinging and they're not going very fast and they only get to here in your back handspring, then that's going to be your handstand position, and you might flop down out of that, or even worse, land on your head. So when you're swinging the arms, think about getting them to your ears as fast as you can. Sometimes I'll even teach this skill, the standing back handspring, without an arm swing altogether. Usually I'll do that if someone is throwing their head back or they're getting too archy. Sometimes that can kind of help. Sometimes that arm swing kind of makes us want to go forward and then back. And so if I see that as a problem for someone, then I might have them just start with arms by their ears and keep them there. So you can really practice either of these. And this goes for different drills that involve the arms that we'll do. So you could do this onto a bed, you could do it standing, but pick the arms that work for you. I don't really see a problem with just starting with them by your ears. I think some people find it easier to swing, and that's great. But if it's causing problems for you, you don't need the arm swing. You can try to learn it without instead. And when we do round up back handsprings, you don't get time to stop in the middle of the skill and swing your arms anyway. You've got to be ready to go. Arms up, no swing. So let's do, I lost count. I'll do one more of these. Sitting back and pushing away from the feet. I feel like I look goofy doing that, like I'm dancing at the end. It would be better if I was actually going flat to my back on something. And speaking of which, I'm going to show also the body position that we want for the whole skill after that push. And then this will be kind of your landing position. If you do this onto a bed, then that's where you want to kind of be in the air and then land on the bed. So that's, if you've ever done back handsprings with me, this will be familiar. The hip lift position. So we start flat, shoulders on the ground, heels on the ground, and then you're going to squeeze your bottom and lift your hips off the ground. Just here. We could just hold that. Okay, that's the position that the back handspring should really take. We don't want it to be, like I said, too archy and short. We want just that little bit of hip lift to get enough arch to reach back onto the hands, but it doesn't need a lot of bend. You can do that hip lift hold just to kind of strengthen. If that's really tough for you to hold for more than a second, then that would be a good thing to work on just to kind of gain that strength and get used to being in that position and comfortable there in the air. That's what you should be thinking about after you push off of the ground and you're reaching back into your back handspring. Squeezing tight, hips up. So let's do that for, I don't know, 10 seconds. I didn't really pay attention to how long I can hold it. You kind of feel that in my lower back too. It's a lot of core strength and control just to be able to hold that position and stay strong, not noodle around. Okay, so that enhanced hand step downs. I had one other. I wanted to show some with the mat folded up, but I want to make sure that I got all the other ones I was planning. Oh, okay. There are two more we can do. So the opposite of that is also good for strengthening your core and getting that control. Looking at you, bendy people, this will help you. And that's the like Superman or Superwoman. So lying flat and then squeezing and lifting up your heels or your feet and your hands. And you can do sets of them, or you can try to just hold one as long as you can. I think that these are great. I like to even add these in with like V-ups and the hollow body 6 inches hold sometimes. Sometimes this is kind of fun conditioning and you can challenge your siblings to this. It's fun to do like rolls where you're rolling from Superman to 6 inches, and then I even throw in V-ups sometimes too. So you can play around with that. You're holding and then you roll without your hands and feet touching. You could add V-ups or tuck like crunches and rolling back. So those can be kind of fun too. I think that it's good to find some joy in conditioning whenever you can. So the other one that I wanted to show before I folded this up for some other things is this reach back drill. And what I think is helpful about this is just getting used to the motion of going backwards and starting to look for your hands. And it's kind of like, it's about trust. You have to trust that you're going to catch yourself. So this is kind of a trust fall where you're trusting that the wall is there and is going to catch you. So if you have a wall in your home that you can use for this, then you'd start with your back to it. And you can either lock your fingers or you can kind of place hands on top of each other. I kind of like not locking them and just placing them on top of this. But all we're doing is practicing that reach back and kind of pushing away. And you can get braver with this as you do them and step a little bit further away from the wall. Obviously, you don't want to go too far or the walls aren't going to catch you. And you can't be mad at it because it didn't do anything. So as you get comfortable as well, you can start trying to look for your hands with your eyes. We don't want the look to be like way head away from the arms. You want to try to keep head and arms in, but in doing that, you can still kind of try to spot your hands, look for them as you're reaching back. I think that's all my back wants to do of this. But I think that that's a great drill for people who are uncomfortable reaching back. And like I said, you can just get a little bit braver with it each time you try it and maybe start taking it a little bit further away from the wall. I'm talking really like baby ant steps. And then the other one that I think is really cool to do on a wall is the blocking drill, where you're practicing pushing through your shoulders. So if you're not familiar, a block is just a shoulder shrug, but with arms extended. So not down here, but up here, where you're pushing through the shoulders. And this is what gives you the power to land the skill. If you miss the block, if you're not pushing through your shoulders, then you might get the part reaching back onto your hands and then flop out of it with your feet. So by pushing and blocking through those shoulders, we're pushing strong to this landing and gaining the power we need to be able to add another skill, like a back handspring or a back tuck or a quadruple layout, whatever you're doing. So this blocking drill, again, you can play around with the distance between your feet and the wall, but you're going to be facing the wall this time. And you lean forward, and you're practicing this push, and it's kind of a flick of the wrist. You're pushing and kind of snapping the fingers up off of the wall. So this is like you're landing it off of the ground. And in that motion, we're pushing through the shoulders to block away. You're going to make sure on these that you're trying to think about keeping head and arms in. We don't want to be doing this here, right? We should try to get a little bit more distance so that you can open up your shoulders. And pushing. And you want it to be a fast motion, right? And so see what distance works for you. I feel like I have to get a little bit further away from the wall than I think I need to. Just go a little bit more than you're comfortable with, because that's going to actually make it challenging enough to be effective. I like these. I think that it helps the wrist strength for these too, not just the shoulder blocking. Let's do 10 of these. Let me get a little bit further away here. Okay, for this last one, take a little itty bitty baby step back from where you were. See if you can get it from there. Oh, definitely gets harder. You have to push harder. The further your feet get from the wall, the more effort it takes. So challenge yourself on these. Don't just do them where it's easy. Try to push yourself to actually give it a little bit more power. So let's also hold up our mat if you have one, or if you don't have a mat, you could do this potentially off of a couch, but that's a parent permission kind of situation. Please don't kick like precious family heirlooms trying to do this drill. It's not that important. It's good if you can do it, but make sure you're being safe. And really, technically, this drill can be done without any elevation at all. You could just do it on the flat ground. It's going to be more difficult that way because gravity's not going to help you so much. The mat or something elevated just gives you a little bit more time in the air, just makes it a little bit easier to practice landing the back handspring, which is what this drill is about. It's the handstand snap down, which hopefully I'm not going to snap down into this wall over here. That might be better. So I mentioned earlier, if we miss the block, that push through the shoulders in our back handspring, then our landing might be kind of dead. Like we land and there's no power left. It would look something like this, right? Where your feet land and then your hands and chest stand up. So the handstand snap down drill is all about trying to get that snap down with the feet and snap up with the chest all at the same time, which, okay, I'm good. I kind of punched my ceiling in the last video, so I'm making sure we don't have a replay of that. I think I'm going to be okay. Yeah, just barely. Okay, so make sure you're not going to kick anything, your siblings, your precious family heirlooms, your ceiling, your cat, nothing in the way. And all we're doing is kicking up to a nice tight handstand and then practicing picking up those hands as fast as you can as your feet come down. And then we can also practice a nice rebound back out of it. I like to do that because usually, if you're working your back handspring, your standing back handspring, then your next step is going to be to add another back handspring to that, which means we're going to want power out of this first back handspring, traveling back, ready to go into another back handspring. So let's do 10 handstand snap downs and really focus on that push back and just getting any sort of rebound out of it. Even if your rebound is up, that's fine, but just make sure you have some power left over when you land. Making cautious sounds as I jump into the wall. I miss having space to do gymnastics. I did a back handspring in here earlier to test it out, and that was dangerous. So make sure you have room to do stuff. I suppose if you're smaller than me, that will help, so you don't take up so much room with your tummy. You can also do these up to a wall so that you're not kicking over. I see people limber out of these pretty often, so having a wall there can help stop you, but make sure you don't kick any holes in the wall. So notice as I'm snapping down, I'm really trying to get those hands up as my feet come down. What we're trying to avoid is the pike or bending at your waist as you land it, because that's the two-piece landing where you pick up your hands 10 years after your feet land. And just trust me, you're going to have a hard time doing anything else out of that. This is all about being able to add another skill. I feel like that one got kind of scrunchy. So really, we need to bend our knees on the landing to land safe and not hurt our knees, but they don't need to bend a ton. So if you're landing really low in a squat, you probably want to start to stand that up a little bit more. I feel like that one had a little bit better block through my shoulders. So really think about putting everything together for this drill. We're trying to snap those hands up as the feet come down, and we're trying to push and block through our shoulders off of the mat and spot in front of you. Don't look down at the ground on your landing. I think that helps a lot. Trying to keep eyes up kind of helps to direct it where it needs to go. So I definitely don't know if I did 10 of those or not. I throw out these numbers and they're meaningless. But the other one I wanted to show with the mat folded up, I think this is a little tall for, so I'm going to unfold a little bit here, kind of section it off. I don't know about this. Did I say I missed the space in the gym? Okay, so for this one, it's nap time. You're going to start with your shoulders just slightly elevated on the mat. This is already really uncomfortable. But your shoulders up on the mat, and you can practice here lifting your hips up. And again, just kind of trying to get that, that hip lift position and the open shoulders all at once. I think this being an angle is making it more difficult. Actually, I don't know what I'm doing. But that's a little bit better. Okay, so we'll do with shoulders elevated on something. And for this one, you could just use like a pile of pillows. Honestly, you don't need a mat or a couch for this. It's a lot lower. And let's do 10 hip lifts. Try to hold at the top and make sure each time you're really squeezing your bottom at the top of that lift. those get difficult after like 5. You really start to feel it. Okay, so those are the drills that I would recommend for at home. I have more if we're at the gym. You guys know there's a little bit more we can do there. But there are also a couple. I was going to do that back conditioning as well. There are a couple of conditioning things I was going to show. Although the one that I just did is very similar to like this hip bridge where you just start lying flat, feet in close, and lift and squeeze. And actually it's feet a little bit apart and squeeze your bottom at the top. But that's really similar to this one. So if you don't have something to stack up to be able to do this, then you could do the one that I just showed in place of it. And I think the other one that would be great, if really not even just if you have the flexibility issue where you're too bendy, anyone will benefit from this. You can do it either lying flat on the ground by yourself, or you could do it off of something elevated like a bed with a partner holding down your feet. So I'll attempt to show that without a partner. I'm gonna use Casper, my imaginary friend. Don't let me down, buddy. This is, I already know this isn't gonna work. I don't know what I'm trying. So anyway, your friend would be holding your feet, and then you can put hands on the back of your head. You're trying to lift up. This is not gonna go well. See? Okay, so it's literally impossible. Yeah, that makes sense because it's hard to do on the floor too. So hopefully you'll get the idea on that one. But if you don't have a friend like me, you can just do it on the ground and lift. Okay, so you'll have a better range of mobility if you're doing this off of something elevated, and if you have someone holding your feet, you'll be able to lift up more and hopefully even get to like more of this angle. You really want to try to extend as far as you can and don't just go like little tiny motions. So let's do 15 of those wherever you can do them. I would recommend doing them there if you have something and a partner, but if not, the ground works too. My other tip on these is to try to kind of hold at the top of each one. Don't go too fast on these. Those last 5 are so hard. Okay, I'm sufficiently exhausted. I don't know about you all. Some of you are probably just watching from your couch and laughing at my misfortune. That's okay too, as long as you learn something. I think that is all for today, unless anyone has any questions that they want to throw at me right quick. But really, doing these drills, I promise they will help. I know it doesn't feel productive sometimes when you're not doing the entire skill, but I promise you, this is exactly how I teach it. If we were in the gym, I'd break it down into these pieces. We might be using different equipment or different specific drills, but it's the same thing. We're trying to get each of these positions hit during the skill, and we need the strength to be able to do that. So these drills will help you. So do them. Okay. Let me know if there's something specific you want to see next week. Otherwise, I will pick whatever I feel like, I suppose. But I'll see you guys later. Have a good rest of your week.